Thank you for using Tax 990 as the authorized e-file provider to assist you in filing your 990 series forms. Today we're going to talk about how to complete the balance sheet using the interview-based filing method with your 990 PF form. We're going to start by accessing the balance sheet by clicking this icon here, and it'll take us to an overview of our net asset and fund balance. We'll go ahead and get started with our net asset and fund balance by clicking Edit. We're going to input our net asset and fund balance at the beginning of the year and click Next. In this section, we're going to be reporting our assets in this individual categories for beginning of year book value, end of year book value, and end of year fair market value. The information you provide in this section will generate at the bottom of the form and calculate all of the different categories together. So you can see we've input all of our beginning of year book value, end of year book value, and end of year fair market value assets. And at the bottom, it has calculated our total assets for each beginning, end of year section. From there, you're gonna go ahead and proceed to the liabilities page, where you'll input again your beginning of year liabilities book value, end of year book value in the appropriate categories. And we'll click Next. Now in our net asset and fund balance section, we must choose whether or not the organization follows SFAS 117 to generate the appropriate lines. So you have to make a selection up here and then enter your values accordingly. In this section, for both beginning and end of year, if you have liabilities reported, you're going to enter the difference between your assets and liabilities. If you did not report liabilities, you will only enter your total value of assets for beginning of year and end of year. So since we did report liabilities, we'll record the difference between our assets and liabilities in this section. The balance sheet is going to indicate our total net asset and fund balance based on the information provided. So as you can see here, we've got our assets listed and calculated accordingly. We have our liabilities listed and calculated accordingly. This value, as indicated, is the difference between our assets and our liabilities. And we've got approval on our calculations on this section for both the net assets and fund balances and total liabilities and net assets and fund balances. If either of these have a red X, we would have to go back and edit our values listed in one of the appropriate sections. Now, since our end of year was greater than our beginning of year, we would indicate where the increase in net assets came from. If our end of year was less than our beginning of year, we would indicate where the decrease came from. So since it was larger at the end of year, then we're going to indicate we have an increase and put a description and the difference between the beginning of year and end of year, and then click Next. This is our analysis of net assets or fund balances. These two numbers have to match, and these two numbers have to match. If these numbers are incorrect and these numbers are correct, then you would edit your information here. Or vice versa, you could edit your information here. If they did not balance, the numbers would be red. So if this number and this number did not balance, these boxes would be red instead of green, and you would have to indicate in the necessary areas where that change was made. Oftentimes what we see is the increase in net assets or decrease in net assets was not completed. So you want to make sure you add that information as to why you had an increase or decrease. If you do have questions on your balance sheet, please contact our support team via email, phone, or chat. We are happy to help, but please keep in mind we cannot provide direct tax advice or direction on how to specifically report your organization's financial information or what categories your finances fall into. But please give us a call if you have errors or questions on how to resolve them, and we're definitely happy to help.